we have these concepts that are often talked to us about imposter syndrome. And I hear a lot of times from associates or people in training, people in universities who are students saying that they have imposter syndrome. But you'll even hear that from, high-ranking CEOs. And in the end of the day, we talk a lot about imposter syndrome as though it's a fault of the person, that they need to be stronger willed or have more self identity and all kinds of things. But in the end of the day, we don't talk about what's really at the root of this. And what the root of imposter syndrome is a system of oppression that consistently, nonstop sends us messages that we are not enough, that we are incapable, that there is something better than who we are. And if we really look at that, this was not true. Every
Hmm.
single one of us has value. Every single one of us, regardless of education, regardless of socioeconomic income, regardless of all the societal norms, we are valuable, just us
Hmm.
being us.
For our audience who maybe don't know what you mean by imposter syndrome, can you share a little bit more about that, what that is, what it looks like?
Where when any time that we're in a situation and we think, like, I'll give an example because that's a lot easier. If we're at work in whatever situation that we're in and we're sitting there, we want to give an answer, we want to say something, we're like, I don't really know if I know the answer, I'm not sure, what if I'm wrong, how are people going to see me, how are people going to perceive me, are they going to see me as less
Hmm.
competent, when in reality you know the damn answer the whole time and
Hmm.
you knew exactly what you were doing, but we are sit there, we're afraid, like maybe I'm not supposed to be here. I would say for brown and black bodies, and BIPOC, not just brown and black bodies, but BIPOC, that many times it is, I don't belong here. This isn't my space. I'm not enough. I'm not educated enough. I don't know enough. And so we sit there and feel like we're an imposter in a place where we belong. And not
Hmm.
only where we belong, but we deserve to be. And that creates these feelings of fear. It limits us because we're less likely to take a risk. We're less
Hmm.
likely to step outside and say, this is me, and highlight ourselves. And we tend to wait and rely on other people to speak first. So we never really get to step into our true power.
Hmm. Yes. And, as you're saying that, definitely people of color and I think women, right? Like people whose voices have been taken from them in past, it's hard to step into that and feel like I do deserve to be here. I am as smart as this person next to me.
Yes. I mean, how many times are we in place? I will speak for myself and say, I don't know how many times that I've been in places where go to say something, and usually it's male or a white bodied man who will say, well, I
Hmm.
don't know about that. And sometimes it has been difficult because we've been told that if we counter that or we say anything back, that we're being argumentative. And so that's another internalized system of oppression. Like, am I being argumentative? Am I being disrespectful or rude? Or am I being direct?
And I just imagine with a lot of the healers you work with in training, there is some work you do around their own imposter syndrome. And I'm curious for our listeners who have heard this term either for the first time now or they've heard it and are acknowledging, like, yeah, I do have some imposter syndrome. What kind of tips do you have for them? Or how do you help work with people on imposter syndrome to really have that confidence and just kind of push it out of their head?
One of the things that I really do is values work. And what that is, it's not rocket science. Printed out a Google Words. And then after that, we looked at our values. Where do my values lie? Is this in the physical realm, the spiritual realm, the emotional realm? And looking at it, and literally it starts with taking the words and placing them where they belong, where you believe they belong. And then after that, what are the words that continually pop up? Those are our core values. And when we make choices and we make decisions, and our core values don't necessarily waver as we go through life. So if we know our core values and we make decisions based on those core values, well then we'll always be in alignment and we know we're doing exactly what we need to do. For example, one of my core values is curiosity. That becomes hard sometimes when I am talking to a neo-Nazi. Do I really want to be curious or do I want to run away, right? But the truth is, I have in my physical, spiritual, emotional world, I am curious. How did you come to this conclusion? How did you think of this? And the more we know ourselves, we know our values, the less likely it is for others to disrupt our peace, to make us question ourselves, to make us doubt ourselves. And let's be honest, it will happen. But it's about moving from living in that state to being able to have that feeling and recognize it and remind ourselves that that's not true. That is fear speaking, that is something else speaking. So I do a lot of
Mhm.
values work. In terms of tips, it is really the more you know yourself, the better you will be able to manage, handle, work through anything that comes your way. The other thing that I would say is it's not just a statement that's like this pretty fancy statement that we see a lot. It has to be a very ingrained belief. I am enough. And every single one of us is enough. I don't care who you
Mhm.
are. You are enough. You are not alone. You never have been alone. And you never will be alone.